Just want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone on this glorious day. Robin Perlmutter, peer counselor here at Support Connection. I'd like to welcome you all to the Soups On virtual cooking with health coach Susan Chasen. Just to remember that Susan is sharing her expertise, and any information or questions pertaining to your individual concerns should be discussed with your doctor. It's with my great pleasure that we have Susan Chasen, health coach from the Organic Teaching Kitchen. Susan, I want to thank you for sharing your time and talents with us today.
Great, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I am truly honored and humbled to be asked back to support your organization, the Support Connection community. You know, last time we were together, first of all, welcome to my teaching kitchen. This is actually my home kitchen. I'm doing it here as opposed to my office. It's just a little bit easier to work. I have a little bit more counter space. So it's a little bit more luxurious in terms of space. But the last time we were together, we were talking about building a strong immune system. And after that talk, and I hope some of you were on it, Robin and I were talking, and Robin asked me to do another presentation, and we thought doing a soup presentation really was both timely and supported and built on what we spoke about last time, about building a strong immune system. So I started teaching back in 2009 out of this kitchen. And what I found was the most tangible piece of my interactions with my clients, back then they were friends and family, was the kitchen and the aha moments that they experienced when we stepped into the kitchen to start preparing some nourishing food. I felt people were really intimidated by the kitchen, intimidated by using spices, intimidated about knife skills and needing to have certain knife skills and having culinary skills. And I think, you know, today's generation, we're really not brought up seeing our parents cook in the kitchen so much. I wasn't, at least. I grew up when, you know, a time when I think women really just, they burnt their, or they cut their apron strings and said, no more of this. I could buy processed foods, I could buy ready-made foods, and that's what they did. So I grew up that way, and I started this all on my own. I just always had an interest in health and wellness and eating food from the earth. So my mission at the Organic Teaching Kitchen is really to inspire the value of good nutrition and its ability to reverse and reduce illness, improve your overall health, and by simply just using seasonal ingredients and organic whole foods. It's amazing the power that, you know, whole foods have, vegetables have, things that come out of our earth to really heal and restore health. So one of the best ways really to do something like that is to try to build your immune system is through diet and lifestyle. Food choices make a huge influence in your health. According to probably the oldest medical system out there, which was Ayurvedic medicine, which started in India and it still exists today, they really talked about being in tune with nature for your health if you want to be healthy, living in harmony, and observing and honoring the natural cycles that we go through in life with the seasons is paramount to good health. As we're getting into the winter season, there's obviously less light outside. It's going to start getting cold. It's a beautiful day today on the East Coast, but it will start getting colder, and there is more of a need to be indoors and sort of nesting a little bit. So if we honor that and we look at that time and say, you know, it's time for me to rest my body and not run around and not be on 24/7, which is what our society demands of us today, or thinks it's the norm. You know, it's okay to step back and say, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good to me. I need to rest some more and feel comfortable doing that. And it's a great opportunity to really start expanding your culinary skills and start going into the kitchen and cooking. So with that said, today we are making you all have the recipe, a red lentil soup recipe. I think Robin sent it to everyone. If not, you will get it after the presentation. And basically what it involves is immune supporting ingredients. So to me, the 3 steps involved when making a delicious soup starts with a homemade vegetable broth. I know it sounds like an extra step and it's laborious, but I made a homemade vegetable broth today, probably just an hour ago before we were going on live. And I looked in my vegetable bin. I found carrots that looked so-so, that were a little bit soft. I took some celery that didn't look in its prime. I cut up an onion. I didn't even cut it up. I actually took a whole onion and just put it in the pot. And I threw in some garlic cloves. And that's really all you need to do to make a delicious soup stock. What's nice about it is you're bringing in vitamins and nutrients from the actual vegetables, and there's really no waste. So, and it adds a tremendous amount of flavor to it. The next piece about making a delicious soup is the spices that you add to it. So today's soup, we are using curry, and I'm going to add in some extra turmeric. So curry, all these are Indian spices, by the way. So curry has about, let's see what I wrote it down, 11 spices in here. So they are coriander, turmeric, mustard, cumin, fenugreek, paprika, cayenne, cardamom, nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves. So every single one of those spices has anti-inflammatory properties. There's so much touted about eating an anti-inflammation diet, really for good health. Spices is a great way to do it, and adding in some of the vegetables we'll be adding in will support that as well. When it comes to spices, and turmeric. Turmeric is the spice that gives curry its yellow color. And turmeric, of course, we all know as a wonderful anti-inflammatory. Many people are taking that for people who have like joint pain. It's a medicinal herb. So I add a little bit extra of this into the soup. But back to spices again, I really believe in buying organic spices, because conventional herbs and spices are often fumigated or have iridation added to it, done to it. And those are 2 things you really don't want to add into your cooking. So organic is definitely recommended. A lot of times they add in like anti-caking agents in it also. So you never know what's in your spices. And I think that there are some probably FDA rules about what you need, based on volume, what you don't need to put into your ingredient list. So I also have people come to my office, and when they smell my spices, cinnamon, for instance, they'll say to me, your cinnamon smells so different than my cinnamon at home. So choose organic when you can. It goes a long way. The other ingredient we're going to be using a lot of are onions, garlic, ginger, the allium family, which have a tremendous amount of antioxidants in it as well. A lot of polyphenols, which are micronutrients. These have a tremendous amount of health benefits, also anti-inflammatory benefits. When we spoke about building an immune system in our last talk, we spoke about your gut bacteria. And, you know, the more colors and the more diversity you add in terms of food to your diet, the more diverse your bacteria, your gut microbiome is, which is a good thing. Next is the other ingredient we're going to be using a lot of is root vegetables. And we'll talk about this a little bit more after when the soup is cooking, about eating in season. So let's start. We'll start with the soup. What I do is I'm going to put my oven on. So I'm going to put a little bit of, if you're following along with the recipe, I'm going to put a little bit of coconut oil in there, extra virgin coconut oil. I love the flavor it adds to the soup. It's a little bit on the sweet side. It could handle a little bit of heat also. Many people ask me what other oils can I use in something like this. You can use olive oil or ghee, which is clarified butter. Those are also nice options for soup. So I'm going to put some coconut oil in here. I'm using a really nice heavy soup stock. I highly suggest and recommend you invest in a good soup stock pot. It has multiple uses. Okay. So what I like to do here is I'll melt it, I'll heat it up a little bit, and then I will add my spices in. The process that this is kind of like tempering. It's called tatka, which is an Indian technique of kind of roasting or heating up the spices so that all their oils could come out, and you really get to taste the beautiful flavors that they have. I said to Robin before some of you are on, I wish there was an app that we can actually sort of, so I could send you and you could smell all the wonderful fragrant smells I'm experiencing now. So I'll put in some curry and then some extra turmeric. I don't know if anyone at home does this, but really it will change your soups and stews by doing this process. You know, you'll notice I'm very liberal with my spices. I'm not that careful. The nice thing about soups is it's forgiving. If you like it a little bit spicier, you add extra in. If you don't like it as spicy, you know, you can modify that as well. I'm going to add in some turmeric. You know, turmeric is something I add to a lot of my stews, even when the recipe doesn't call for it. It adds a beautiful golden color. Sometimes I add it into frittatas, eggs. I even add it into my smoothie sometimes. So, okay. I'm smelling it already. Let me just get a... I will show you what it looks like. You basically know it's ready from the smell, and I smell it. Okay. The next ingredient I will add in there is some garlic, onions, and ginger. I use ginger root like this. This is wonderful. It adds a really nice little spicy kick to my foods. You can also use ginger root. And what I do every morning is I boil some hot water and I add a piece of ginger and I squeeze some lemon in it. It's a wonderful drink and really healing. It keeps you warm. So let me take this. There's a lot of talk about food prepping. Did I do this? And I'm going to share a little bit of food prep that I do every single week that makes my cooking at night go really fast. So I'm taking some ginger and I'm taking some, I'll start with the garlic. I'm taking some garlic and I peeled some garlic cloves already. The best way to peel garlic cloves is taking a sharp knife. I hope you can see me. And basically just smashing it. And that will loosen up your skin. So I have this garlic that I peeled already, and I'm putting it into a small little food processor that I love. So about once a week, I take about 3 or 4 bulbs of garlic because I go through a lot every day. I cook with it. And I just put it in this little processor. I'm going to blend it. And again, I wish you could smell this, but I have this wonderfully finely chopped garlic. The nice part about chopping garlic like this is all the oils pour out of it. So you really get the benefits of all the flavor. When you have to chop it by hand, each individual one, you just don't get the same aromatic flavors as you do with this. So I will add some garlic in here. I don't know how much I told you to add in here, but I love a lot of garlic. So, you know, I wrote more to taste if you like garlic. The next thing I'm going to do also is put a piece of ginger root in here. Ginger is quite hard to cut up by hand also. So the same thing is you're really going to get the benefits of the wonderful flavors that ginger offers. And this often I will also keep, I keep little glass jars of it in my refrigerator so that when I want it, I have, where's my top? I'm smelling my spices. So those are really cooking, and I should now take some of my vegetable broth and I will start adding it into my spices. So my vegetable broth, let's take this off. So here's my vegetable broth. And what I did, it's hard to see it, but I'll show you. What I did with this is I used a double boiler, like a strainer. So all I have to do is pull out the top and I'm left with the broth. I don't know if you can see that. And I mean, this smells so delicious. Here we go, just vegetable broth. Often people say to me, cooking, using organic ingredients are so expensive. And I let them know that, you know, going out and buying ready-made broth is expensive. When you have these vegetables sitting in your refrigerator that are sort of starting to go, you're really able to maximize and utilize everything. So there's really no waste. So you hear it sizzling, and I'm going to start slowly adding in some vegetable broth and let that heat up nicely. About so much. So I'm letting it heat up so it really takes on all the wonderful richness of the spices. And now the garlic. And now the ginger. Wish you could smell this. So you notice I'm not really measuring my ingredients that much. I think the more comfortable you get in your kitchen, the more comfortable you're going to get with just knowing how much is the right amount. One of my very first clients I had told me that the thing she walked away from after working together for a few months was watching me add in ingredients without measuring. She was always intimidated by that process. Let me add a little bit more broth. And I'm going to start, I raised the temperature, I raised up the flame on this. I wanted to kind of come to a boil. Okay. Cooking is about layering. You need to slowly add in ingredients to really bring out and enhance all the flavors from each ingredient. Next is we're going to layer in some of the onions. The other ingredient I failed to mention was in that allium family is leeks. Leeks adds a tremendous amount of flavor to soups and to stews. The thing about leeks, a lot of times they are really dirty on the bottom. I washed this and it's fine. I cut off the green part already, but normally leeks looks like the white part and then there's some green thick leaves on top. You can discard those or use those in a soup stock and you use basically the white part. And let's see if I can show you how I do this. You know what? I already chopped up my onion. So I'm going to put add my onion in here. I'm letting that cook in this golden broth. I will cut up. You don't have to use leeks. It just adds another dimension. And again, the more variety of the rainbow food vegetables you bring into your diet, the more diverse your bacteria is, which is wonderful. So this is what the inside of a leek looks like if you have never seen it before. And it's beautiful. Sometimes I add a shallot to my soup. Shallots is a cross between a let's see if I have one. Garlic and onion. And it adds a really beautiful flavor as well. We can add that in there. And it almost looks like a large piece of garlic when you cut it up. It comes out in like pieces like the garlic. Here we go. You can start seeing it. It smells divine. Okay, I'm going to add some more. Now you can also use just water when you're making a soup, but the amount of flavor that this broth gives, it's really worth making some. You can add a bay leaf to your soup. And next ingredient is, I'll add in some carrots, which really sweetens it. So you get that spicy and that sweet flavor. Carrots, you can add in sweet potato, you can add in squash, you can add in, this is called a honey nut squash, similar to a butternut squash. You can add acorn squash in here. This is delicata squash. You can add that to it. We're going to add in, I cut up, started to cut up some honey nut squash. So I'll just cube it. And you can really cut it in any shape that you want. I just like to do uniform cubes so they cook at the same rate. What we'll end up doing at the end is using an immersion blender to just start mixing in the flavors a little bit more. Oh, I should also mention that, oops, I'll get that later. When you're cutting up, people are intimidated by using squash sometimes, by using butternut squash, or this is a little honey nut squash, because it's so hard to cut into. I recommend using a vegetable peeler. Just a good one. You want to make sure the blades are sharp on it, and you just peel the skin away very easily, as you would carrots. And then I cut it into slices instead of trying to get my whole knife through the middle. It makes it a bit easier to cut. I already peeled a sweet potato. We'll add some of that in there. Getting yourself a nice sharp knife is really important when you're working with root vegetables. And, you know, growing up, we never had good knives in my family for some reason. And I always thought everything was so laborious when I would cook something or cut something, you know, even an apple or an orange. And then I realized we never had really sharp knives. So when you buy really sharp knives, It makes cooking so much easier. And I also discovered that through, again, one of those aha moments in my kitchen with clients. And they would say to me, I need new knives. This is so easy when they would cook here. So having the right tools is so key in cooking. You don't need a lot. You don't need a gourmet kitchen. I mean, this knife I may have picked up at, you know, like a TJ Maxx or, but it's just a really nice sturdy knife. I like using like something like that, a one-piece knife when I'm cutting into root vegetables. I got some carrot in there. I'll show it to you again. Let's see if I can do this. Getting to see this a little bit. All of these root vegetables have tremendous amount of carotene in it, vitamin A. They get it all from it's carotenoids. Again, they get it all from their colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. That looks like enough. And then I'll add in some more broth. And then, of course, the final ingredient is red lentils. What I love about lentils is, all lentils, but particularly red lentils, is they take no time to cook. They cook so quickly. You don't even they don't even form a shape. They're just part of the soup. So I'll take about I'm looking at how much soup I have, about 2.5 cups. And using a fine mesh strainer, whenever you're using lentils, any beans, you always want to kind of just inspect it and make sure there are no foreign particles, any stones in there. That looks good. I'm going to put another cup. And I'll do a little bit more. Lentils is a great plant-based protein. I think a 1/2 cup, I wrote it down, has, let me just see. Let me just see. I think it has like 12 grams of protein in it. Yeah, 1/2 cup serving of cooked lentils, 12 grams of protein. Of course, it's very high in fiber. It's a complex carbohydrate, low in fat, low in calories. It will fill you up. I always like to rinse it. And in it goes. I'll just mix it. And this is it. Yeah. So I'll let it come to a boil. Some more broth, it's kind of thick. You can actually freeze the broth. If you have extra, you can make it in advance. Put it on high. And that's it. That's what it takes to make a soup. So there's just, it will take about 25, 30 minutes, a little bit more maybe to cook. I like to get it to a boil and then I keep it on simmer for a while. And then that's it. What I'd like to add also is to tell you that once it's cooked and you cool it, I take these mason jars. You could take recycle jars from, you know, almond butters, things like that, and freeze them. So you have soup for another day. And I have a lot of soup already in my freezer, which is great. It's very comforting knowing on a day when you're not feeling well or a day you don't feel like making, you know, lunch or something, you can have a bowl of soup. The key to using glass jars in your freezer is you have to fill them and leave a good, I'd say at least 1.5 inches, even 2 inches. Sometimes I leave because I've some bottles have broken in my freezer and I'm very upset about that because I'm missing that soup. So again, you can use glass jars, but leave a generous amount on top because liquid expands when it freezes. But this is a great thing to do. The other thing I like to do is when I'm eating my soup, I like to sprinkle things like pumpkin seeds on top of it, just to add another texture. And you'll see it if you receive the recipe, how I pictured it. Toasted pepitas are really nice. Sesame seeds are really nice. Hemp seeds are really nice. And when I do leftover soup, the thing I always add to it when I'm heating it up is I'll look at what leafy greens I have in my vegetable bin, and I'll add some leafy greens in there. So, Robin, I think what I can do right now is, while it's cooking, is take some time to answer some questions.
It's a lovely idea.
Okay, and then I'll show everyone what it looks like, and I may have to drop you off that jar of that. No, you don't need to. The question is, you don't need to soak lentils, and you don't. That's the beauty of lentils. You don't need to soak them as you do like cannellini bean or chickpea. So lentils, like you can just, you know, rinse them and cook them right away. Can you substitute green lentils for this particular recipe? You can. I don't know if the flavor will translate as well, but you certainly, I can't imagine not being able to. You know, when I do green lentils, I will use other Indian spices. It's a heartier soup to me. So a nice combination with green lentils is cumin, and I use coriander and turmeric, of course. So that's another nice soup to do. And there I'll use celery, carrots lends itself nicely to it. You can add in root vegetables kind of to sweeten it as well. I'm making my recipe in an Instant Pot. Do you ever use an Instant Pot? That's a funny question. My son bought me an Instant Pot 2 years ago for Mother's Day, and I've never used it. So I'm not proficient in that. I'm kind of old school. The thing, I think you definitely can make it in an Instant Pot. What I would do though is, and I believe you can heat up, you could do the tatka, you can heat up the oil with the spices in that pot. So yes, so make sure you do that step. Do it slowly and then cook it. Do what I did, but in layers, and add in you know, add in do the spices, then add in the garlic and the onions and the leek and the shallot if you're using that. Then add in the root vegetables, you know, with the broth. And last, of course, then once you add in the lentils, yeah, do it on the Instant Pot. I just don't know how long it will take you. Oh, thank you. Cauliflower, hold on. Oh, I'm so glad someone mentioned that to me. I do use cauliflower in that recipe, and I'm so glad someone is paying attention. I love cauliflower. The reason why I use cauliflower really was because years ago when my kids were little, actually my husband too, no one liked cauliflower, and it's a wonderful vegetable. It's a cruciferous vegetable, and it doesn't taste like anything in the soup. And actually it looks really pretty in there too. So when my kids were little, I used to blend it up a little bit more and they wouldn't see it. So I'm so happy you mentioned that. I'm adding some cauliflower in right now as we speak. Okay, I don't know if you could see this, but my soup is boiling. So I'm just reducing that. Hold on, let me get this in. If I missed anything else, let me know. Okay, I'm going to open this up. Some people would have called me being a sneaky mom doing something like this when my kids were little, but I think it's good. I think you have to do these things. Now, by the way, they both eat it and they love it. And I do a lot of recipes with cauliflower. Here we go. Let's see if anyone could see this. Cauliflower floating around. Okay, back to this. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Okay, so I saw the beginning part of your question, Debbie. You said you have cauliflower in the recipe. My husband can't eat that. What can you substitute? You don't need to substitute anything. It clearly was just to boost the soup. And part of when I teach people how to add more nutrient dense foods into their diet, I do things like that. Add in cauliflower when you can't taste it, add in leafy greens to everything you make because they're so high in nutrients. So you can leave the cauliflower out, certainly. Even though you did, okay, Lillian, even though you didn't use tofu, can you tell me if it's good for BC people? Tell me what BC stands for.
I think she must mean breast cancer.
Breast cancer. Okay, of course. That is something that is, I don't want to use the word controversial, but that is something, there's so much debate about that. And for years, I've always heard it's not good for you. I always tell everyone, do the research, read books, ask your doctor. You know, there was a doctor on TV, Robin, I saw once on Good Morning America, and I don't remember what book she wrote, but I think she talked about how it was so important for women, that soy was important. So do the research. It's not in my practice to even recommend or you know, speak about that. I personally use a little bit of soy every so often. I don't use a lot of it, but when you do use tofu, make sure it's organic, because soy is such a genetically modified crop. You want to make sure you're getting the whole soybean. And I would never do too much of anything. You know, if something is controversial, and an unknown, or there's, they go back and forth, science goes back and forth on a subject, I would err on the side of caution. Is there more nutrition when you cook, simmer longer? Karen asks, is there more nutrition when you cook or simmer something longer? There are certain vegetables and fruits that are more nutritious when you, or different vitamin nutrients come out when you cook. With this particular one, I can't say that there's more. There's definitely a lot of flavor. And remember, you're having it as a soup, so it's soaking up all the nutrients. You're not wasting anything. You're not cooking it and then getting rid of the actual stock, like you may be when you're, let's say, cooking broccoli, for instance, and you're discarding the water. Somebody wrote, you didn't add salt. Does the soup need it? That's to taste, and that's up to you. What I often do, and I'm glad you brought that up, I often take garlic cloves, although I added garlic while I was cooking it. I take whole cloves and just add it into my soup, because I find that the garlic adds a certain sweetness to it, and it kind of counteracts the need for salt. I do like salt. I like using some Himalaya pink salt. So it's really to taste. Many people don't use salt in it. Let's see. Okay, Edwina wrote, if you are allergic to garlic, what can you use to substitute for that umami flavor? It's a good question. So there are a lot of people that have an intolerance to garlic, and actually all in that family, like onions as well, and people following the FODMAP diet cannot have garlic. So you can they make garlic infused olive oil that has a nice, potent, strong garlic flavor. And that's what I recommend people to do. I guess you can actually, I've never done it, but take some cloves of garlic in a concentrated into a pot with some olive oil and heat it on a low heat, and you'll infuse all the flavor out of it, and see if that would work for you. But they do make it. They make garlic infused olive oil. I don't know if I have any here. I do. Trader Joe's makes it.
So if you're allergic to garlic, you can still have garlic infused oil?
It depends. I'm not having a conversation with her, so I don't know if she's fully allergic to garlic or has what happens to her body when she eats the garlic. Is it a FODMAP thing? Is it something that your body can't digest well? I can't really speak to that, but people who are can't digest garlic well.
Okay.
And it really bothers their stomach. If you're following a FODMAP diet, you can have garlic infused olive oil. So again, you'd have to really research. Edwina, you would have to research that on your own and see if that would work for you. Let me just see. Okay, Linda's writing, cooking right now in 6 minutes in an Instant Pot. That's great. That means you could share it with us and let us know how it came out. Can you add kale, Linda wrote, another Linda wrote. You certainly can. I would add kale towards the end, because I'd like it. I like my kale to be not overly cooked, but you certainly can. And when I mentioned, when I do, when I use my leftovers, I always add leafy greens in there. So kale is often something I will add in there. Okay, good question, Julie. So now she said, how to chop squash, particularly with joint difficulties. That is challenging. Okay, I know people who have arthritis that have a really challenging time. They sell pre-cut butternut squash in many stores. And they even sell organic pre-cut squash. It doesn't have the same shelf life as buying a whole squash, but it is a great alternative. I believe Trader Joe's sells that. I think Mrs. Green sells that. I've seen it even like ShopRite. So you can buy it in the refrigerated section because it is challenging. But if you have any sort of mobility in your hands and you can do it, if you can peel the squash and then cut it really, thin, small pieces, it makes it easier to cut than cutting it through the whole, like taking a butternut squash and cutting it directly in half, because that's really challenging. Can you use cauliflower, Deborah? Can you use cauliflower rice in the soup if you have it on hand? Absolutely. Will it thicken the soup? Yes. But again, thickening of the soup, depending on how thick you like it or how much broth you put in, how much root vegetables you put in, will all be up to your taste level. But yes, definitely cauliflower rice is a great idea. Lillian wrote, thank you. What does bay leaf do? Bay leaf adds another little bit of flavor to it. I can't tell you, I never taste the difference either. It's funny that you said that. It's in there. So Edwina says she has a garlic intolerance. Is it a digestive thing? You have a stomach issue? It's something if you really want that garlic flavor, you can, if it's not a very serious garlic intolerance and an allergic reaction, you could play with it and test it out. Take a little bit of infused garlic oil and try it. Food allergies are so individual. I too have an intolerance to garlic, onions, scallions. I use a small amount of green onions. A smaller bulb seems to be somewhat tolerable. Okay, so if you have an intolerance to that, to the whole allium family, my suspicion is you have difficulty digesting that type of carbohydrate. So people that do so often follow, if you're familiar with the FODMAP, FODMAPS, FODMAP diet, which is an acronym, off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but it's an acronym that represents the different type of carbohydrates in different type of foods. And garlic, onion, scallions are in there, which is difficult because they add so much flavor to foods. People who have an intolerance, I find, are able to tolerate olive oil with the garlic infused flavor, because they're not actually eating the garlic itself, which is what they have the intolerance to. It's not just 6 minutes. It has to come up to pressure and then 6 minutes, and then I have to wait till the pressure comes down. That's the part of the Instant Pot I find very misguiding, misleading. They tell you that it will only take you 6 minutes to cook, but they don't tell you about the time you need to get your machine up to pressure. So, okay. Marilyn, I sometimes use russet potatoes in a bean soup. Would sweet potato be healthier? I mean, sweet potatoes have, a lot of nutrients in it and the beta carotene. So would it be healthier? I find it to be a healthier potato in general. A russet potato wouldn't add the same flavor as a sweet potato. So I would recommend the sweet potato here, or a squash, or any of the squashes, like an acorn squash. Again, acorn, even a delicata squash, kombucha back to when I mentioned about Ayurvedic medicine and that ancient medicine. When you read about it a little bit more and you study that, you see how honoring the seasons and eating in season is so paramount to your health. And I always like to ask people, like at this time, I mean, do you find yourself craving things like sweet potato this time of the year, pumpkin, versus something like ice cream? You know, in the wintertime when it starts getting cold out, we just don't crave those things the same way. So listening to your body for cues on what it really needs to stay healthy is so key. People talk to me a lot about cravings and having sugar cravings. And, you know, to me, a sugar craving is your body saying to you, something is out of balance. So I think we have to, you know, look back, sit back and say, what could be out of balance? So with sugar cravings, it could be looking and thinking about your sleep. You know, did you sleep well the night before? You know, because sugar, sometimes you want sugar just to keep you up and give you a boost of energy. Think about those type of lifestyle, your lifestyle, and see where these cravings are really coming from. Sometimes you're craving sweets when you're having challenges, you know, with stress, you know, we're having stress. And with some, like dealing with this pandemic, like we're dealing with now, going on, what month is it? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 8 months now. You know, a lot of people had terrible cravings, and it was really stress that was causing their cravings. So really think about what's going on in your life sometimes and try to balance it. Having something like root vegetables, adding things, sweet vegetables to your diet will help you balance out your craving levels also. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens the more you do it. You'll see. Let me go look at the soup.
Susan, can I ask a question while you're checking that out? So with the vegetable stock that you make from scratch, so if we have vegetables, if I have vegetables in my fridge that have pretty much, I would normally say, oh, I haven't used these in a while, they're kind of wilty, I'm going to toss them. Are there still nutrients in those vegetables that I could use for the stock?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
perfect vegetable stock. It's scraps. It's perfect.
Okay. Even when
Those are
it's
the ones
wilted,
I
like
use.
celery's wilted and salt.
What?
And, okay.
Yeah.
Even when it's
I mean,
already gotten, okay.
It is. It doesn't have the same level of nutrients that, like, you know, your carrots that are really crisp have. I don't know. I don't have a measure for that, but you're getting tons of nutrients still in there.
Okay. And then my other question is two questions. The vegetable stock, how long can it stay in your fridge if you're going to make a bunch of soups that week? Like, is there a shelf life on that in terms of?
Yes, I would say like, you know, probably about 5 days. Then it could start getting, you know, it could smell a little bit. But
Okay.
you'd have to, you know, I think it also depends on how much is in your fridge at any one time and how cold your refrigerator is.
Okay.
But I would keep it for about that time. And if you don't really think you're going to use it, because it does take up space and you have to store it, you could freeze some also.
Okay. And
But then you have to remember to take it out and defrost it.
okay. Actually, thank you. And as Jen, so if I don't know if you want to take.
And you freeze those scraps until you have enough for stock. Absolutely. There are people that every time they cut, like right now, you see all this? I have all these scraps. There are people that would stick that in a baggie, and put it in their freezer and make stock out of it. So yes, anyone, every little piece of vegetable that you buy, especially if it's organic, you can use it. Some people, you peel your carrots, they take the carrot peels and make stock out of it because there's so many nutrients in there.
Thank you.
This is homesteading, you know, just really, which is great, which is what we really should be doing now. No one wants to waste anything. We're not going to the stores as much. Oh, I see. Lillian wrote, I nuke it a minute, then cut the squash. Now I see it. Okay, so someone was asking saying it's very hard to cut the squash. And I guess you microwave it, I assume, and you cut it. So I guess you can I've never done that before, but if it softens it, you can do it. Whatever it takes to get it soft enough so that you can actually cut it. You can also, well, you can't bake a whole squash. But you could try it. I've never done that. Let's see. Can you freeze any or all herbs? I don't freeze my herbs, but you can freeze them. And I actually should, because I have a slew in my office a lot of time, and I will try it. But why not? You should be able to do that. It's a great idea. You could either freeze it or you could dry them also. And I've dried herbs before. While we wait, and if they choose to ask a question, the last step with my soup, what I do is I take an Immersion Blender, which is a little handheld blender, and just right around now, while it's really cooking, almost fully cooked, I will take it and just start breaking down the vegetables, and it really adds a nice flavor to the soup. If you like it really chunky, what I recommend doing is taking a spoon and taking out some chunks. So you can have some whole pieces in there. You know, like that. You can fill up a couple of cups and do that. But let me show you what this looks like now. If you can see that. Can you see that? Sort of. Let me see if I can bring this over. I need, who is it? Rachel Ray's set up with her phones, with her cameras. Yeah, let me see if I can do this. Can I do that? Nope, not getting an angle like that.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Wow, that looks delish.
So you see how quickly that cooked also. Didn't take too long. So I'll use an Immersion Blender now. I always shut the flame off. Whoops. Seeing this, let's see. Let me fix that. And the soup is basically done right now. Oh, wait, it took less than an hour with talking.
Wow.
And it's ready to eat. A lot of times soups are not ready to eat. I will tell you though, by using a homemade stock, you can eat it right away and you get the full flavor. You know how sometimes soups need to wait? You need to wait. The next day they taste better. This soup will taste delicious right away.
Susan, can you show us what it looks like after you did the Immersion Blender?
Yes.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, thank you.
A little creamier. Can you see that?
Yes. Now, if you don't have an Immersion Blender, can you use your own blend, like just a regular blender?
You can, so that involves cooling a little bit,
Okay.
putting it in a blender, and breaking it up. Sometimes it gets over blended. The other thing you can do with this is, because the lentils are totally soft. They don't even have a form really. You can take like a potato masher, right? Do you know what those are? I have one somewhere. Have you seen these? Right? And you could just mash it. So that would be another alternative. And you don't even need to mash it, but it really, it marries the flavors together when you do that.
I think you have another question.
I'm looking. Can you freeze? How do you dry them? How do you dry herbs? She wanted to know. Jean wanted to know. I had some. Looking around my kitchen to see where they are. All you do is cut them and leave them out. And they dry up. You know, if you had time sitting on your, which I always do, having on my, on your countertops, it will just naturally dry up. And the flavor is just as intense.
Can you remind everyone of your website, Susan?
Yes, it's theorganicteachingkitchen.com. So it's THE organic, ORGANIC kitchen, KITCHEN.com. You are welcome to ask me any questions. I'm always available.
You have a couple of people that just responded to you.
Oh, you know what else? Actually, someone didn't catch this. The other thing I did not put in this soup was parsnips. Anyone familiar with these? Into a chicken soup also. So parsnips was my first food, real food, whole food that I gave my son when he was a baby. So parsnip resembles a carrot in so many ways. It's a root vegetable, and you wouldn't eat it like you would eat a carrot. I wouldn't necessarily eat it raw, although I do sometimes because it's delicious. They're really sweet, but this adds a lot of flavor also. Another food, to add more diversity into your, that gut bacteria that we talked about.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Edwina wants, how do you spell FODMAPs? F-O-D, it's M-A-P-S, like P like Peter. Yes. There is a slew of information you will see when you read about it. Many people who experience IBS look into that type of diet and try to remove those type of foods from that diet. The one thing about FODMAP is it's not a one size fits all, and there's a lot of trial and error, like there is with all food allergies. And what may upset one person, another person may not have that same, they may be able to eat it and not have that same symptom. So, but certainly something to look into if you are experiencing digestive distress. And there are a lot of books out on FODMAPs also. Okay, so Karen wrote, I made soup with green lentils, which I had on hand, eating it now, very delicious. So there you go. So whoever asked me about green lentils, maybe it was you. You can use this, you can make it with green lentils too. That's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's a very forgiving soup, as all soups are really.
Program. Is there something you wanted to close out on? Say in closing, Susan?
Out early on, listening to your body, listening to what it's saying to you, taking the time to acknowledge it by eating in season, and taking the time to, many people don't take the time to cook because it's so laborious, but taking that time, I look at cooking as a self-reform, self-care. I think it's really important right now, protect our immune system and make it as strong as possible to fight off diseases. So I think cooking your own food is key. Eating the rainbow. Are things that you can really do for yourself to build immunity. And of course, stay away from, processed foods. Stay away from refined flours, and sugars, which really, to me, take away your immunity. They break it down. They break you down quicker.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan, so much for a wonderful, fun, and inspiring presentation. I know I'm excited to start celebrating the upcoming fall/winter season. And certainly going to kick it off with this recipe. And I hope all of you enjoyed this presentation and are going to be going out there and giving this, taking this out for a spin as well. I want to thank you all for coming out this afternoon, and for Susan, especially for your passion, dedication, commitment. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really
Bye-bye.
my pleasure.
Bye-bye.